The brand new Royal Enfield Bullet 650. Let's start the story at the beginning. I'd like to tell you a bit of a story about Royal Enfield. Mr. Krishna Kumar painted the famous Madras pinstripe on the Royal Enfield Bullet for 35 years. His nephews, Jaya and Kishore Kumar, continue that tradition today. Each morning, the Kumar brothers come into the factory and carefully blend the precise shade of gold by hand. Now, I'm not saying every Royal Enfield Bullet 650 is hand-painted by the extremely talented and busy Kumar brothers. That's not true. However, the pinstripes on every Royal Enfield Bullet are hand-painted on in the factory in India. Born in 1932, the Royal Enfield Bullet is the world's oldest motorcycle in continuous production. Royal Enfield have been building the Bullet for 93 years continuously. That is an impressive record, and there's some serious history behind the Bullet model. In 1948, a few years after its incarnation, the Royal Enfield Bullet was one of, if not the first motorcycle to introduce the swinging arm rear suspension. So setting standards, inventing new ways for motorcycles to be built and used. Debuting the swinging arm rear suspension on the Bullet 350 Trials prototype, used by exceptionally talented trials motorcycle riders, and won a multiple of competitions back in the late 1940s and in the early 1950s. When the Indian Army itself wanted a machine to patrol the remote areas of Kashmir and Rajasthan, hard to get at areas, they chose the Royal Enfield Bullet for the job. Okay, let's get into the specs of the bike. So the new Bullet 650 coming in two colours: Cannon Black, which is going to be retailing at $6,749, or, which is personally my favourite colour, Battleship Blue. Such a classy looking bike. I'm going to get into a bit later. There's a potential problem on the horizon coming here, but we'll do that at the end of the video. So $6,749 for the 650 model. The 350 Bullet, which is already on sale today and already out, that's $4,629. So you're paying a couple of extra £1,000, but there's good reason for that. And the first main reason for that is the engine, because it's a 648cc parallel twin with 47 horsepower and 52 newton meters of torque. So that's a fairly large jump up compared to the 350. The 350 is a single cylinder engine with 20 horsepower and 27 newton meter torque. So it is more than double the horsepower for the 650 model. That makes quite a big difference. So suspension's fairly simple on these Royal Enfields. The front suspension's 43mm telescopic forks with 120mm of travel, non-adjustable. The rear suspension is twin shocks, 90mm of travel with preload adjustability, so a nice little bit of adjustability on the rear there. Front brakes, you have a single 320mm disc with two piston floating calipers. On the rear you have a single 300mm disc with two piston floating calipers. So floating calipers, guys, not radially mounted, non-adjustable front forks. They're fairly basic out of the box motorcycles dynamically wise. Okay, I want to do a bit of a comparison to the 350 model here with these next specifications. The wet weight of the 650 is 243 kilograms. That's not a light motorcycle. When I read that, I was actually a little bit, not shocked, but I took note of it. That's got some weight to it. On the other hand, the 350 model is 195 kilograms. I hope I've read those specifications right and that's the correct information. I don't want to give you the wrong information here. I've double checked it, I'm pretty sure it's correct, but that's nearly 50 kilograms heavier for the 650 model. Most of that is the engine, and I'm sure the power will offset that weight, but worth noting that extra weight. The fuel tank on the 650 model is 14.8 litres, so you've got more range there, more capacity for more fuel, longer distances with more power from the engine, more substantial riding, bigger fuel tank. You can really realistically take this bike on longer tours much more comfortably than the 350 model. The 350 model has a 13 litre tank. So it's a little bit smaller, more for shorter range riding, maybe from coffee shop to coffee shop and a bit of posing along the way. Okay, so there are the raw specs for you. What about competition for the Bullet 650? The obvious one is the BSA Gold Star 650. Coming in at 6399 for the Gold Star. That's very close competition for the Royal Enfield. Where I think the Royal Enfield peaks the BSA, and I would definitely buy the Royal Enfield Bullet myself, is the BSA Gold Star has a single cylinder, 650cc engine. Very similar power figures. I've ridden both engines. Personally, I must say the parallel twin 650 from Royal Enfield is a much nicer ride than the 650 single from BSA. It's much smoother, more torquey, nicer power delivery. So competition-wise, the Bullet is winning it so far. Where the problem arises, the classic 650. The Royal Enfield. This is a potential sticking point that we need to go over. So, the issue being, guys, is the classic 650, Royal Enfield Classic 650, is pretty much exactly the same bike as the Bullet 650, but it's 6499. It's actually a bit cheaper than the Bullet 650, so why would you buy the Bullet 650 over the Classic 650? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons. So, number one, the Classic 650 has a single seat with a separate passenger seat. The Bullet 650 has an all-in-one bench-style seat. Personally, I prefer the seat on the Bullet. I think it looks more retro, more substantial as well. It's just a nice-looking seat. Secondly, now I know not a major change, but the rear fender is more rounded on the Classic 650. On the Bullet 650, it's slightly more squared off. It is a different looking bike on that rear end, if you look very closely. So guys, when making your decision as whether to buy the Classic 650 or the Bullet 650, one thing to take into consideration for that few extra £100 for the Bullet is the Classic 650 was actually based off one of the early model Bullets. The Royal Enfield Bullet is the bike. It is the Royal Enfield. It is the world's oldest motorcycle in continuous production. The Classic 650 is just an iteration that's slightly copied the Bullet earlier models. Not to say the Classic 650 isn't beautiful, it sure is. Personally, overall, I'm very excited about the Bullet 650, genuinely. I think it's a stunning looking motorcycle. It's got the heritage just looking perfectly, more substantial than the 350 model as well. I'm not knocking the 350, but I would actually consider buying the 650 because I prefer a little bit more power. Beautiful gold badged etched onto the tank there, just stunning. And for 6,749 British pounds, I think that's a really good bargain for such a stunning looking motorbike. Can't wait for it to come out in the new year and give it a test ride. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you found value from the video. And many thanks, Royal Enfield. Fantastic new addition to the fleet. Ciao, Bella.
नजर